Hello. Today we continue to read Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. We finished the first chapter, which was called Thoughts Are Things. Say hello. And now we're on chapter 2, Desire. Whatever the mind of man can conceive and believe, it can achieve. Desire, the starting point of all achievement, the first step towards riches. When Edwin C. Barnes climbed down from the freight train in Orange, New Jersey more than 50 years ago, he may have resembled a tramp, but his thoughts were those of a king. As he made his way from the railroad tracks to Thomas A. Edison's office, his mind was at work. He saw himself standing in Edison's presence. He heard himself asking Mr. Edison for an opportunity to carry out the one consuming obsession of his life, a burning desire to become the business associate of the great inventor. Barnes' desire was not a hope. It was not a wish. It was a keen, pulsating desire which transcended everything else. It was definite. A few years later, Edwin C. Barnes again stood before Edison in the same office where he had first met the inventor. However, this time, desire had been translated into reality. He was in business with Edison. The dominating dream of his life had become a reality. Barnes succeeded because he chose a definite goal, placed all his energy and his willpower and all his effort, everything at the back of that goal. First subheading: The Man Who Burned Bridges. 5 years passed before the chance he had been seeking made its appearance. To everyone except himself, he appeared only another cog in the Edison business wheel. But in his own mind, he was the partner of Edison every minute of the time from the very day that he first went to work there. Barnes won his goal because he wanted to be a business associate of Mr. Edison. Whoops, hold on. I skipped a single sentence. It is a remarkable illustration of the power of a definite desire. Barnes won his goal because he wanted to be a business associate of Mr. Edison more than he wanted anything else. He created a plan by which to attain that purpose, but he burned all bridges behind him. He stood by his desire until it became the dominating obsession of his life, and finally, a fact. When he went to Orange, he did not say to himself, "I will try to induce Edison to give me a job of some sort." He said, "I will see Edison and put him on notice that I have come to go into business with him." He did not say, "I will keep my eyes open for another opportunity in case I fail to get what I want in the Edison organization." He said, "There is but one thing in this world that I am determined to have, and that is a business association with Thomas A. Edison. I will burn all bridges behind me and stake my entire future on my ability to get what I want." He left himself no possible way of retreat. He had to win or perish. That is all there is to the Barnes story of success. Next subheading is the spur that drives to riches. A long while ago, a great warrior faced a situation which made it necessary for him to make a decision which ensured his success on the battlefield. He was about to send his armies against a powerful foe, whose men outnumbered his own. He loaded his soldiers into boats, sailed to the enemy's country land, unloaded soldiers and equipment, and then gave the order to burn the ships that had carried them. Addressing his men before the first battle, he said, You see the boats going up in smoke. That means that we cannot leave these shores alive unless we win. We now have no choice. We perish or we win. They won. Every person who wins in any undertaking must be willing to burn his ships and cut all sources of retreat. Only by doing so can one be sure of maintaining that state of a mind known as burning desire to win, which is essential to success. The morning after the Great Chicago Fire, a group of merchants stood on State Street, looking at the smoking remains of what had been their stores. They went into a conference to decide if they would try to rebuild or leave Chicago and start over in a more promising section of the country. They reached a decision, all except one, to leave Chicago. The merchant who decided to stay and rebuild pointed a finger at the remains of his store and said, "Gentlemen, on that very spot I will build the world's greatest store, no matter how many times it may burn down." That was almost a century ago. The store was built, and it stands there today, a towering monument of the power of that state of mind known as burning desire. The easy thing for Marshall Field to have done would have been exactly what his fellow merchants did. When the going was hard and the future looked dismal, they pulled up and went where the going seemed easier. Mark well this difference between Marshall Field and the other merchants, because it is the same difference which distinguishes practically all who succeed from those who fail. Every human being who reaches the age of understanding of the purpose of money wishes for it. Wishing will not bring riches, but desiring riches with a state of mind that becomes an obsession, then planning definite ways and means to acquire riches and backing those plans with persistence, does not recognize failure and will bring riches. Next subheading is called 6 Ways to Turn Desire into Gold. The method by which desire for riches can be transmuted into its financial equivalent consists of 6 definite practical steps. First, fix in your mind the exact amount of money you desire. It is not sufficient merely to say, "I want plenty of money." Be definite as to the amount. There is a psychological reason for definiteness, which will be described in subsequent chapters. 2. Determine exactly what you intend to give in return for the money you desire. There is no such reality as something for nothing. Third, establish a definite date when you intend to possess the money you desire. Fourth, create a definite plan for carrying out your desire and begin at once. Whether you are ready or not to put this plan into action, begin at once. Whether you are ready or not. Fifth, write out a clear, concise statement of the amount of money you intend to acquire. Name the limit for its acquisition. Name the time limit for its acquisition. State what you intend to give in return for the money, and describe clearly the plan through which you intend to accumulate it. Finally, point 6. Read your written statement aloud twice daily. That from section 5. Once just before retiring at night and once after arising in the morning. And as you read, see and feel and believe yourself already in possession of the money. It is important that you follow the instructions described in these 6 steps. It is especially important that you observe and follow the instructions in the 6th paragraph. You may complain that it is impossible for you to see yourself in possession of money before you actually have it. Here is where a burning desire will come to your aid. If you truly desire money so keenly that your desire is an obsession, you will have no difficulty in convincing yourself that you will acquire it. If you truly desire anything so keenly that your desire becomes an obsession, you will have no difficulty in convincing yourself that you will acquire it. The object is to want and to become so determined to have it that you convince yourself you will have it. Next subsection is called, Can you imagine yourself a millionaire? To the uninitiated, who has not been schooled in the working principles of the human mind, these instructions may appear impractical. It may be helpful to all who fail to recognize the soundness of these six steps, to know that the information they convey was received from Andrew Carnegie, who began as an ordinary laborer in the steel mills, but managed, despite his humble beginning, to make these principles yield him a fortune of considerably more than $100 million. It may be further help to know that the 6 steps here recommended were carefully scrutinized by the late Thomas A. Edison, who placed his stamp of approval upon them as being not only the steps essential for the accumulation of money, but for the attainment of any goal. The steps call for no hard labor. They call for no sacrifice. They do not require one to become ridiculous or credulous. To apply them calls for no great amount of education, but the successful application of these 6 steps does call for sufficient imagination to enable one to see and to understand that the accumulation of desire cannot be left to chance, good fortune, or luck. One must realize that all who have accumulated great fortunes first did a certain amount of dreaming, hoping, wishing, desiring, and planning before they acquired money. You may as well know, right here, that you can never have riches in great quantities unless you can work yourself into a white heat of desire, and you actually believe that you will possess it. You may as well know, right here, that you can never have riches in great quantities unless you can work yourself into a white heat of desire and actually believe you will possess it. Next subheading is the power of great dreams. We who are in this race for riches should be encouraged to know that this changed world in which we live is demanding new ideas, new ways of doing things, new leaders, new inventions, new methods of teaching, new methods of marketing, new books, new literature, new features for television, new ideas for moving pictures. Back of all this demand for new and better things, there is one quality which one must possess to win. And this is definiteness of purpose, the knowledge of what one wants and a burning desire to possess it. Definiteness of purpose. We who desire to accumulate riches should remember the real leaders of the world always have been those who harnessed and put into practical use the intangible, unseen forces of unborn opportunity. Hey, shout out. Unborn. And those who have converted those forces or impulses of thought into skyscrapers, cities, factories, airplanes, automobiles, and every form of convenience that makes life more pleasant. The real leaders of the world have always been those who have harnessed and put into practical use the intangible, unseen forces of unborn opportunity. In planning to acquire your share of the riches, let no one influence you to scorn the dreamer. To win the big stakes in this changed world, you must catch the spirit of the great pioneers of the past, whose dreams have given to civilization all that it has of value. The spirit which serves as the lifeblood of our own country, your opportunity and mind to develop and market our talents. If the thing you wish to do is right and you believe in it, go ahead and do it. Put your dream across and never mind what they say if you meet with temporary defeat, for they perhaps do not know that every failure brings with it the seed of an equivalent success. Every failure brings with it the seed of an equivalent success. Thomas Edison dreamed of a lamp that could be operated by electricity, began where he stood to put his dreams into action, and despite more than 10,000 failures, he stood by that dream until he made it a physical reality. Practical dreamers do not quit. Whelan dreamed of a chain of cigar stores, transformed his dream into action, and now the United Cigar Stores occupy some of the best corners in America. Good job, Whelan. The Wright brothers dreamed of a machine that would fly through the air, and now one may see evidence all over the world that they dreamed soundly. Marconi, almost read that as macaroni. Macaroni dreamed of a system for harnessing the intangible forces of the ether. Whoa, what? Radio or something? Marconi. Evidence that he did not dream in vain may be found in every radio and television set in the world. It may interest you to know that Marconi's friends had taken him into custody and examined in a psychopathic hospital when he announced he had discovered a principle through which he could send messages through the air without the aid of wires or other direct physical means of communication. The dreamers of today fare much better. The world is filled with an abundance of opportunity, which the dreamers of the past never knew. Next subsetting is called How to Get Dreams Off the Launching Pad. A burning desire to be and to do is the starting point from which the dreamer must take off. Dreams are not born of indifference, laziness, or lack of ambition. Remember that all who succeed in life get off to a bad start and pass through many heartbreaking struggles before they arrive. The turning point in the lives of those who succeed usually comes at the moment of some crisis, through which they are introduced to their other selves. John Bunyan wrote The Pilgrim's Progress, which is among the finest of all English literature, and after he had been confined in prison and sorely punished because of his views on the subject of religion. Right, he wrote that after being confined in prison. Because of his views on the subject of religion. Maybe that's where I'll end up. O. Henry discovered the genius which slept within his brain after he had met with great misfortune, and was confined in a prison cell in Columbus, Ohio. Seems like prison is the place to go to get your creativity on. Being forced through misfortune to become acquainted with his other self and to use his imagination, he discovered himself to be a great author instead of a miserable criminal and outcast. Charles Dickens began by pasting labels on blacking pots. The tragedy of his first love penetrated the depths of his soul and converted him into one of the world's truly great authors. The tragedy produced first. That tragedy produced first David Copperfield, then a succession of other works that made this a richer and better world for all who read his books. Helen Keller became deaf, dumb, and blind shortly after birth. Despite her greatest misfortune, she has written her name indelibly in the pages of history of the great. Her entire life has served as evidence that no one is ever defeated until defeat has been accepted as a reality. No one is ever defeated until defeat has been accepted as a reality. Robert Burns was an illiterate country lad. He was cursed by poverty and grew up to be a drunkard and in the bargain. The world was made better for his having lived, because he clothed beautiful thoughts in poetry, and thereby plucked a thorn and planted a rose in its place. Beethoven was deaf. Milton was blind. But their names will last as long as time endures, because they have dreamed and translated their dreams into organized thought. There is a difference between wishing for a thing and being ready to receive it. No one is ready for a thing until they believe that they can acquire it. The state of mind must be belief, not mere hope or wish. Open-mindedness is essential for belief. Closed minds do not inspire faith, courage, or belief. Remember, no more effort is required to aim high in life, to demand abundance and prosperity, than is required to accept misery and poverty. A great poet has correctly stated this universal truth through these lines. I bargained with life for a penny, and life would pay no more. However, I begged at evening when I counted my scanty store. I bargained with life for a penny, and life would pay no more. However, I begged at evening when I counted my scanty store. For life is just an employer. He gives what you ask. But once you have set the wages, why, you must bear the task. I worked for a menial's hire, only to learn dismayed that any wage I had asked of life, life would have willingly paid. Only to learn dismayed that any wage I had asked of life, life would have willingly paid. That's great. Let's end it there. I believe the next chapter we get into, the sub-chapter is called Desire Outwits Mother Nature. And he begins to talk about his deaf son, who learned through bone conduction to hear. But we'll get to that next time. Thank you for being here. I'm going to read this little thing again because I like that poem. I bargained with life for a penny, and life would pay no more. However, I begged at evening when I counted my scanty store. For life is just an employer, he gives you what you ask. But once you have set the wages, you must bear the task. I worked for a menial's hire, only to learn dismayed that any wage I'd asked of life, life would have willingly paid. Think and grow rich. See you soon, family. Thank you for learning alongside me. Nice bookmark. I love you so much. See you soon. Have a good day. Have a good night. Bada bing.